Welcome back to Dmac Mad Gaming. I'm your host Dmac, and here we believe gaming is a lifestyle, not a hobby. Welcome back, guys. And today I want to talk about Ben Studios and Days Gone. Now, we've been hearing a lot of controversy in the last couple months about Ben Studios and their game Days Gone. The first controversy was around the newts that you was able to kill in Days Gone. Everyone made a big deal about it. There was a big uproar about it. Everyone was complaining about it in the gaming community, and I had to do a video on it because I felt like it was stupid and absurd for people in the gaming community to get upset about something like this. But I think it was mostly people that aren't really gamers and don't really play games like that because there have always been creatures that look like children in video games that you have to fight because it adds more enemies for you to fight, different characters, different approaches to fighting different characters. It gave the game more variety. Made it more interesting than fighting the same enemy over and over again. And you know how we gamers hate that. And I think that's how Ben Studio was doing when they made the creatures newts for the game for you to fight as well, along with the other freakers, which are adult freakers, and you have the kid freakers that are called newts. And you see them being torn apart by other adult freakers and how they kind of not bother you until they see you vulnerable or weak and things like that. And it's add more dimension to the game, more dimension to the combat. And I think Ben Studios did a wonderful job with that. But there was some outrage about it. I did a video a couple weeks ago about it, and I will link that video in the description box below if you haven't checked it out yet because it's a really good video. Got a lot of views on it. I really appreciate you guys checking it out and leaving comments. A lot of interesting comments on it. If you haven't seen it, I have that link to that video in the description box below. But today we're talking about how a lot of gamers, the game community, feel like game websites like IGN and others did not give Days Gone a really fair score. They feel like they gave it a low score for no reason at all. It wasn't based on the game itself. It was just based on their biases and things like that. And I have to agree with the gaming community on this. I feel like IGN, a lot of these other website gaming companies don't really take the time to actually play a game and really get invested in the game and understand the gameplay mechanics, the upgrade system of a game, or the narrative structure of a game. And sometimes they give it really low scores when it doesn't deserve a low score like they did for Days Gone. So I agree with the gaming community on that. I feel like IGN did not give it a fair shake, which is one of the biggest ones that people was complaining about. The journalist that did the review seemed really biased and was complaining about it, which there was an African American character or LBG character he was playing, and I think that there's them being outraged, trying to make outrage out of something that don't need to be outraged about. And I think a lot of us in the game community need to slow down on this. We need to be outraged about more serious things. And in my opinion, I feel like this is not something to be outraged about. I don't care about the ethnicity of the character or the back history of a character. I just care about the character that I'm playing and his story and his development and the gameplay mechanics and things like that. And I think Ben Studios did a wonderful job. So I agree 100% with the gaming community on how IGN was really bogus with what they did, and I feel like IGN needs to be held accountable for their actions. But I also feel like a lot of times these website gaming websites that have journalists doing reviews don't give them enough time to actually review a game. I think they rush out their reviews. They don't give their journalists enough time to play games long enough to give it a fair shake, a fair review. And so I feel like Kotaku do a lot better job with that than IGN. And some people in the game community probably may say, well, DMAC, I feel like Kotaku don't do a really good job neither. That's why I tell a lot of people in the gaming community, and a lot of my friends that are gamers, that just don't choose one gaming website or one individual YouTuber or person or influence to tell you if you should purchase something or not. Get multiple opinions about something. Do your research. Listen to multiple reviews. Listen to multiple people talk about the product before you make a conscious decision to buy something or not, because you may miss out on a great game. And I feel like Days Gone is a great game. It's not like God of War. God of War is totally different from Days Gone, and so is the new Spider-Man game that Sony just released a year ago. Them games are totally different from Days Gone, and I'm going to explain more why. But I also want to talk about something I watched a couple days ago. It was a documentary by Santa Monica Studios, and they did a documentary on the development and production and the development and the launch of God of War. Now, the documentary is 1 hour 45 minutes long. It's really long, but it was a really good documentary, and it kind of opened my eyes to how developers develop games. What's the process from pre-production to production to post-production, and what trials and tribulations they have to go throughout the whole process. And I thought it was a really amazing video, and I think you guys should check it out. I'll leave a link to that video in the description box below. It's on the PlayStation PlayStation YouTube channel. But I'll leave a link to that video in the description box below if you guys check it for yourselves. I recommend really watching that one. It may be a little bit long, but it's really interesting. It gives you a different perspective on developers and what they have to go through to make great games. And the reason why a lot of these developers get burnt out or don't want to make games anymore because of how difficult it is to make great games and how difficult it is to create a game and be able to launch it by the time that publishers want it to be launched. Sometimes publishers don't give these development studios enough time to polish and finish a game. And this documentary, The Rise of Kratos by Santa Monica Studios, really gives you a good look into that. And I really think that it would change your perspective on developers and how hard they work at making these great games for us. And we all know Kratos was an iconic character. He was a one-dimensional character for many games. And the reason why this game was so good because they changed him from a one-dimensional character to a two-dimensional character. They gave his character more characteristic traits. It made him be more relatable to fathers and sons and things like that. And I feel they did a wonderful job. And throughout the process of them making this game through the documentary, they was afraid that a lot of people wasn't going to receive it well. And that's why right now it's one of the best games ever made for the PlayStation 4. And I think that that's all due to them taking them time, planning out what they want to do, having a leader that knows what his vision is and sticking to it. And one of the most interesting things about this documentary, what's related to this video, is that towards the end of production of God of War, it had a million bugs in it that made it unplayable on any platform. And it was able to get rid of all the bugs before post production. And I think that speaks a lot to Ben Studios and Days Gone because it released with some bugs. Not a lot of bugs, but enough bugs to irritate some people. And I feel like when they was finished with the production of the game, before post production, it may have more bugs than what you realize, and the bugs that escape sometimes escape. And it gave me a different perspective on how games are developed, and sometimes bugs get through. And I think Ben Studios did a wonderful job with the development of the game when it came to gameplay mechanics, character development, the upgrade system, the world that you interact in. Yes, it's not a war-winning game, but it's a good game, and I think a lot of people feel like that in the gaming community. That's why they're so upset about these gaming websites and how low of a score they gave it. But in my opinion, I feel like IGN and a lot of other gaming websites do what the best they can, and sometimes you may get a butthole that reviews a game that don't really like that type of game, that type of genre, or that type of gameplay mechanics. Humans are biased sometimes, and I think the person that reviewed Days Gone for IGN was a biased person and just wanted to cry about something that did not need to be cried about. So I agree 100% with you guys on that. And I feel like IGN needs to change their policies on who they get to review this game, give the journalists more time to review the game so people can get an accurate review of a game. And still, even with that, you still need to check out other opinions before you purchase a game because you can miss out on a great game. And I think Days Gone is a really great game. And I feel like Ben Studios did a wonderful job. And because of that documentary that I've seen with Santa Monica Studios, it gave me a different perspective on what they had to go through to create this game. And this is the first game that Ben Studios has done that is different from their previous games. And I think they did a wonderful job. And I think we should support studios that do games like this to try something different, to try something unique. And for me, I have never really played games that I had to upgrade my vehicle along with my character. And this was something new for me. Because a lot of them games that upgrade your vehicle, your character, are not always story-driven games. And I love story-driven games. So for a story-driven game to have this type of upgrade system where you upgrade your bike and your bike is just as important as anything else you have in this game, to me is amazing. And I think that Ben Studios did a wonderful job. And I feel like we need to support studios that do games like this because it's something that us as gamers want more of. And I think that with the feedback that we give Ben Studios for this game, the next installment is going to be even better than the first one. And then a lot of people in the industry was complaining about how these gaming publishers talk about how the game was really one-dimensional. It had repetitiveness. It was repetitive gameplay and repetitive missions, and they didn't play the game long enough. It's an open-world game where you can approach any mission, side missions, or main story missions at any time you want, and you don't have to go in a certain order like a lot of linear-type single-player games. And I think that's what makes this game so unique in itself because it has a story. It is story-driven, but you can approach it how you want. And I think that's what gives it a little bit more flavor, makes it a little bit more interesting, in my opinion. And I feel like some of the side missions are not really repetitive if you go in it doing if you approach it differently. It's enough things in that game when it comes to gameplay mechanics that allows you to approach situations a lot different when it comes to the same type of mission. And the infested zones are really engaging and interesting when you approach it in certain ways. And I think that's what a lot of people in the gaming community that play this game and support this game feel. And that's why I feel like a lot of people are outraged. But I don't think we should be outraged about gaming website companies because they're not the driving force of the gaming industry. They're not what people go to get the information about games. There's lots of other resources, a lot of other there's a lot of other platforms out there that gamers are able to give their opinions about games and gameplay mechanics and ideas of games. So we live in a time now where you can get your information from many types of platforms and not just one. So I don't feel like it's something that we need to really outrage about. But I do feel like that if you are a gamer that looks at reviews before you purchase a game, do your research, get multiple opinions before you make a decision because you could miss out on a great game. And I think Days Gone is a great game, and I think Ben Studios did a wonderful job. And because of the documentary I saw, it kind of gave me a more open. It kind of gave me a different perspective on developers and how hard their jobs are, and how we need to support them more. And a lot of times, when it comes to development of games, sometimes the things like microtransactions thing may not be because of the developers wanted to put it in there. It may be the publishers. And I think Cinematic Studios has a great relationship with Sony where and they was able to make the game they want without being hindered creatively. And I think more publishers need to take notice on how Sony handles these things and kind of adopt that same business model. But that's my thoughts about everything. You guys can let me know in the description box below. Do you feel like IGN's review was biased? Do you feel like it was It was just being outraged for being outrage's sake? Do you feel like that Days Gone is not as good game, and you feel like Ben Studios did a terrible job with this game, or you just tired of seeing zombie-like genre games? Let me know all your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for sending to the video. I really appreciate it. Make sure you hit the like button, helps out the channel. Make sure you share, it helps out as well. I mean, that really helps out me and the Mad Gamer a lot, and we really appreciate it. We appreciate you guys liking and commenting and sharing our videos. That's what motivates us to keep making more videos. And an update, we'll be making some new content in the next couple of weeks, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, notification bell to be notified when we upload more content, because we're trying to change up our performance and our content a little bit in the future. We'll make sure you guys don't miss that. And as always, stay safe, keep gaming. I'm out. I'll talk to you guys later.